Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. Want to be a badass, kick a little butt, and live your greatest life possible? Then do we have the show for you. Today we're talking with Jen Sincero, super badass success coach and the runaway best-selling author of You Are a Badass. In her words, a few years ago, she said goodbye to her home in California to travel the world indefinitely and encourage as many people as possible to live lives of unbridled awesomeness. Unbridled awesomeness. Who couldn't use more of that? So today we'll talk about being a badass, living a kick-ass life, why fear is for suckers, and how you can live a life of unbridled awesomeness. That plus the G word, doing not spewing, loving the one you is, following your crotch, no, it's not what you think, taking hell-bent for glory action, plus how to make money your new best friend. Well, welcome to the show, Jen. Are you ready to shine?
Hell yes.
Woohoo! All right. Well, Jen, before we dive right into things, have you always been a badass?
I think everybody is always a badass. I think it's just a matter of how much you are or not in your own way to let this badass come through. So I definitely am expressing more of my badassery these days than I ever have before, but I think I've always been one, and I think everybody has been.
Awesome. Can you talk to us about your life before you were a badass coach and how you got down this road?
Yes. Well, I have always been very creative. I've always been a writer. I was a musician for a long time, and I was always doing those things, which I loved doing, but I was also extremely broke all the time. I mean, well into my 40s. And it was so frustrating and so painful and so just like, seriously, like I'm educated. I know what I'm doing. I can succeed at all these other things, but money for me was just this great mystery. And I was ashamed of it, that I didn't have it, and clueless. And, anyway, I finally got to the point where I got so sick of hearing myself say, I can't afford it, that I finally made the decision to figure out what my deal was psychologically around money and put pieces in place to actually make it. So that was most people have their thing that they need to overcome, and mine for sure was money back in the day.
So this perfectly dovetails into an early chapter of the book, which is My Subconscious Made Me Do It. And one of the big questions I had are what are some of the unconscious assumptions we make? So you must have had a very strong unconscious assumption about money.
And what's so interesting is in my conscious brain, I was like, well, I believe that I'm a bad, dirty person if I want to make money.
Oh, no.
That's
a block right there.
That's a block right there. Bad, dirty person. I don't believe that it's really there for me. Like, I feel like I maybe could, but I almost felt like people who had lots of money were a different species than I was. Like, I'd see somebody drive by with a yacht and I'd be like, oh, well, that's like seeing somebody drive by in a spaceship, as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
So I had that disconnect that it could actually be me. And these were all real, and I did the work around those. But the thing that really changed my life, and this was a complete quantum leap moment for me, was I pushed myself. There was a coach that I wanted to work with, and he was $85,000. Okay, and it would have taken me 3 years at the time to make $85,000, right? But I went to one of his seminars, and I was just like, this man speaks to me. Like, I get it. And he was all talking about wealth consciousness. And I was like, I want to take his program. And I was like, I'm going to figure out how to make $85,000. I'm doing it. And when I shifted my mindset to even entertain the belief that Jen Sincero, broke ass me, could even possibly consider making $85,000 just to take this coaching program, let alone feed myself and whatever. By opening up that possibility, it allowed me to access this huge deep-seated fear that I had no idea I had, which was, and it literally came up as if you pulled something up from the bottom of the ocean, like covered in slime and, whatever. And it was, if I become the kind of person who could afford an $85,000 coaching package, my father can't love me anymore because he would show me his love by giving me money. That's how he really showed his affection for me. So deep down, I felt like if I had money, then I was stabbing my father in the heart.
Okay, and that's a hard one to move past.
Well, you know what? Once I realized it, I was able to question it, and I was able to be like, is this true? Like, and then I could feel into the reality, like my father would be so proud of me. Like, and I still let him give me money because it makes him really happy. So it's a win-win. I get to make money and who doesn't want that? But I never would have had that revelation, I don't think, if I hadn't scared the living crap out of myself, specifically around my biggest issue.
So this is something you talk about later in the book, but in this specific situation, how did you come up with the money to work with the coach? What was your process here? And then was it pulling out a credit card? What did you do?
Everything. I borrowed it, pulled out a credit card, everything.
I actually, I want to kind of try to take things chronologically. Now let's jump ahead. Let's jump into the money section, because I read a lot of books. I read 7 books a week. I interview so many amazing people on money, on abundance, on law of attraction. But yours was actually the coolest on this stuff. You are actually the only one out there who said, whip out the credit card. You were the exact opposite of every other one I'm speaking. So I want you to dive into this, because I read this and I spoke with Jessica, because we're putting our lives back together. When somebody's really sick, you get wiped out cold.
Sure.
And we have no complaints, no apologies. We are super grateful for where we're at, and we're coming back. And she's telling me, we need faster computers. The amount of work we're doing, where we're rendering, uploading everything daily, a daily show. She's going, we can't keep up with this. And I'm going, okay, I'm going to go look at what the most badass computer is out there. And then we're going to have a target, and we're going to find a way to get there, no matter what. And then I read your chapter. And I'm like, woohoo! So,
well, I think one of the most crippling belief systems that we've got in this country is don't go into debt, right? Debt is the be-all, end-all boogeyman. And I'm not encouraging anybody to go into debt, like to go, on a shoe shopping binge and ruin their lives, But I am encouraging people to take risks. And going into temporary debt in order to further where you are is almost essential, right? If I waited until my broke ass made $85,000, I would still be waiting tables. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can't wait for something to happen before you start living your life. You have to raise the stakes and be like, all right, I'm getting a new credit card. I mean, I got new credit cards all the time because I kept paying for coaching, but I was so serious about doing whatever it took to start making money that I was like, the good thing about it is not only did it provide me with the coaching that I so desperately needed, but it upped the stakes. I hate being in debt. It makes my flesh crawl, and I'm terrified of it. And so it upped the stakes. So it's like, not only did I get to work with a coach, but it gave me way more incentive. Like, I wanted to get my act together anyway, but now I'm in debt. I'm getting rid of that debt so fast. I hate credit card debt.
There's a mindfulness coach, Michael Jordan's mindfulness coach, George Mumford. He said, sometimes you need a fire under your ass.
Yeah.
And your fire was lit.
Yeah, it was lit. It was, and it only just added to it. And, it's the same thing, like when I bought my fancy Audi, I didn't have the money to buy that car when I bought it, but I wanted to be the kind of person who could buy that kind of car. So it was such a conscious decision, as opposed to sort of because we can spend money in denial and just like fill the hole of fear and lack by buying stuff, and then we get into deep trouble with it. Yeah. That's not what I'm talking about. This is an actual, it's a fire under your butt.
Well, and you have a section in the book where you talk about, do I get the Honda? Do I get the Audi? And one of them is going to keep you in that lack consciousness of, okay, I've saved. I really hate what I'm driving, but I've saved, and I really hate what I'm driving. That's kind of miserable.
And it's the difference between settling for what you can get as opposed to going for what you desire. And that's where a lot of this debt comes in, where it's like, right now, with my current bank account, I couldn't afford anything, right? Back in the day. But I want to work with that coach. So I'm not going to settle for what I can get right now in my current reality. I'm going to step out of my comfort zone in a humongous way and create what I desire. So for me, it was huge.
So looking at that, and this is another section that you have in the book, which is what about what other people are thinking? Because other people are going, you're crazy. You don't have money. You don't have income. They're expressing all of the beautiful lacks to you. Come join us down here. I think you called it the crab effect?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where people are, because of their own fear, doubt, and worry, when they see you start to take crazy, awesome leaps, they try, instead of pushing you out and helping you up, they pull you back down to their level. And it's most often the people who love you the most and the closest to you, because we've made worrying about each other a show of affection in our culture. And I have such a trigger around that. It makes me angry. It's like, I love you that you care about me. If you really cared about me, cheer me on, tell me I can do it. Share your resources with me. Don't share your fears and your doubts. I got plenty of those. Totally good in that department.
Yeah, instead you tell somebody what you're going to do and they help load on. I know that you're already afraid of what you're doing because obviously you're taking one heck of a leap. So let me pack you up with some more stones and worry and doubt. This will help get you going. And
we condone it. We're like, I'm such a good friend that I'm going to weigh you down with my wet blanket of fear, doubt, and worry. It means I care.
I like what you're doing, but I feel it's important as your friend to tell you you're gonna fail. Oh, no. It would be, why don't the crabs push you over the top, but give you maybe a rope so that then you can help pull them out afterwards?
They don't want to come out. They're not ready.
Yeah. So let's talk about both the G word and the law of attraction, because there seems to be a spiritual component, or certainly a universe component, to becoming a badass.
We in our culture are trained to work really hard to get what you want, and make all these big to-do lists, and it is important. I'm not saying that you don't have to do those things. You absolutely do, but we forget all about the spiritual component and the mindset component, which is the more powerful one as far as I'm concerned. Once you get your consciousness expanded and your mindset on board, all the stuff you're going to physically do is going to come so much easier. So if you're coming from a place of expansive thought and belief of what you can create. So let's take the coaching thing, right? Like if I had been like, I can't afford $85,000, going back to my waiting tables job. But because I had expanded my mind and being like, I'm doing it. I don't know how I'm doing it. I'm terrified. What the hell am I doing? Everything I then did, like asking my Italian immigrant father to loan me money for something that was in his mind completely crazy. That was one of the most terrifying things I've ever done. And look what happened. Taking out another credit card and going deeper into credit card debt. I never would have done that if I hadn't had this expanded mindset. And I did it. And then I got to hire this coach, and then everything shifted for me. So,
woohoo!
Yeah.
So since we're on the topic, I'd like to ask you about the Jen Sincero take on the law of attraction.
Well, I'm going to do it around money because that was my big stumbling block, and I had to practice the law of attraction the most in that arena. So let's begin by discussing the fact that money is currency and currency is energy. And I'm just going to say that I had to hear that at least 47,000 times before it finally sunk from here into really getting it.
So let me say that one more time for people. Money is currency, and you had this big and bold in your book. Money is currency, currency is energy.
And the reason it was so important to understand that is because it means money is energy. And so what the hell does that mean, right? Like I write about in my book that you could buy a t-shirt for $5 at one store, and in another store it could be $1,000, right? Same item, different energy around it. And so this is so not taught in our culture. We're taught if you work really hard, you can make money. It's sort of like the to-do list and more of the grind. And you do have to do stuff and take action, and it's not all a grind, by the way. But we don't spend any time on the mindset around the money and the energetic frequency around the money. And when you don't do that, if you're just all in your to-do, it's like pushing a boulder up a hill. Like it makes it, you're doing this work, but it can be so much more fluid if you bring the energetic into it and work on your wealth consciousness and work on this expanded mindset and crack open your vision of what is available and possible for you. It lifts your energy.
Is that why, for instance, a lottery winner, you know the story, the typical lottery winner is back broke again a few years later because they haven't shifted. They had a pile of money, but they never shifted the energy around the money.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? So the way that you treat it, you haven't gotten into alignment with the fact that it's a replenishable resource, that you're in a world of abundance. So if you've got it coming in, if you work on that mindset, then you'll be in the give and flow of it. It won't just be like this weird thing that happened and you've still got this low frequency energy, and that's why it goes away.
So I think what I'd like to do is dive into the 5 rules of wealth consciousness. But before we do that, we had talked earlier a little bit of Honda versus Audi. I'm wondering if you could dive into that story a little bit more, because I think it really paints a picture. And let's go back to the convertible.
The convertible. Wait, my crappy car, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. I loved my old crappy car. But it was a crap. I mean, it looked like somebody had a knife fight in the back seat. It was all, I don't even know, it was all the upholstery had come ripped apart somehow. I don't know. Anyway. So I was driving, back in the day, I was driving this just fallen apart junker old BMW convertible. The grill was gone. And once you lose the grill of a car, it looks like someone knocks its teeth out, right? Like it really crosses the line to something really whatever. And I'd started my coaching practice, and I wanted to raise my frequency. I wanted to feel, when you're driving around in a car like that, you don't really feel that good. And it isn't about image, really. It's about your frequency and what you're surrounding yourself with.
Well, it's sort of like the clothes you wear. If your clothes are all worn out, even if you go, I'm really comfortable in these clothes. For instance, if I was to make a call where I'm just on audio, I'm not on camera, I'm still going to dress well because there's an energy, there's a frequency to that.
Oh my God. The day that I realized as an entrepreneur, it's not cool to do coaching calls in your robe.
Oh no.
No, seriously.
You dress totally up.
You gotta look good to be good. Woo-hoo. I had a friend in college who always put on a suit when he was studying for a test. Anyway, but we digress. So anyway, with the car thing, so there I was in my little junker car, and I was getting my clients, and I was doing my best, and I had a certain income at the time, right? It was my income, but I was hell-bent to increase not just my wealth consciousness, but my income and get into the flow of abundance. So because I was reading this stuff 24/7, I was like, okay, I got to take the leap of faith.
Yeah. And
I got to get myself a car that makes me feel like the rock star that I am becoming. And so I went out and I test drove all these cars, and I knew I wanted sort of an SUV type thing, and Honda had just put out a new one. I was like, well, Honda's good. Like the Honda is fine. Like it's within my price range, and it's sort of got some things that I like about it. And so I was talking myself into the Honda, and across the street was the Audi dealership, and I was like, well, just for fun, I'm going to go drive an Audi. Like, there's no way. There's no way. And I sat in this car, and it was like driving a stick of butter. And I have to say, I really do love to drive, and I love really good stereos in cars. And it has a lot of meaning for me. That it's one of my favorite things, a feeling of freedom and movement and yada, yada. And so I sat in that car, and I was like, oh, man, I know I have to buy this car. Okay. Completely out of my price range, whatever the hell that term even means. And so I decided I was buying that car. And so I put the money down and got a loan and drove it off the lot. And that action of becoming who I wanted to be before I was actually there. This is what the leap of faith is all about. It's about...
Say that one more time. Becoming...
who you want to be before you actually become that person. Okay, so you start acting like the person you desire to become before you get there. Because if you stay as the person you are and try to become this new person, you're only working from this certain reality zone. Okay, so the way that I like to describe it is you can't create a new reality from the reality that you're presently in, right? Because the way that you do things, the way that you think, yada, yada, got you to where you are right now in this present reality. If you want to transform your reality, you must start thinking and acting in a whole new way that you've never done before. So Jen Sincero buying an Audi, whole new thing. Like that was nothing I'd ever done before, right? But I did it because I was freaking serious about changing who I was. So even though it scared the living crap out of me, I had no idea how I was going to make the payments. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. So it raised my frequency. It lit a huge fire under my ass. It was something that I really desired, that had great meaning to me. And it completely helped me change my life. And so I was in that Audi. I felt good. I was already there. I didn't have the money yet, but I started getting clients like that because I wasn't screwing around anymore. It raised my frequency, and it started to help me attract higher frequency clients and work harder. But I was excited to work hard because I had a real tangible desire to work with.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I was sharing this story with Jessica yesterday. We're on our tandem. We're riding down the road. We're talking about synchronicities come into our lives a lot. And we'd actually just interviewed Robert Moss, who wrote a book on synchronicities. So we're riding on our tandem. We're talking about Honda versus Audi. And this car comes up next to us with these grinding wheel bearings going, and I'm not even going to make the sound because it'll grate their ears too much. And Jessica goes, I haven't looked yet. Is it a? And I'm like, I look over and I'm like, yes, it's a Honda.
No, don't get me wrong. Honda's a great car.
Oh, no, but just we're talking about the story.
Right. That's hilarious, right? There are no coincidences.
So, okay, let's dive into the 5 rules of wealth consciousness. Number 1, come from a place of abundance, not lack. What do you mean by this?
This is such an interesting one. And so place of abundance, not lack. Lack would have been Honda, right? Lack would have been, I'm settling for what I can get instead of going for what I want, because what I want is not available to me. So it's about pushing yourself outside the comfort zone and not coming from a place of lack, right? One of the most interesting things, I was reading this great book. It's around here somewhere. It's something about conscious language. And the language that we use, right? If you keep saying, I want an Audi instead of a Honda, I want. When you're in a state of want, it's lack. I want this, I want that. I have this, I have that. I see myself with this.
Do you have or gratitude more? Thank you for this.
Both. I have it, and I'm so grateful I have it,
Perfect.
Put yourself in the soup that way. So, and I get it. Like, there's so much to think about. It's like, if you really try and use conscious language, you kind of can't speak because you realize how stuck you are in that language. But really be conscious of how you're thinking and what you're saying. I can't afford it. Maybe next year. It's out of my range. It's not in my budget. Those kinds of things, total lack consciousness. Demand of yourself that you become the person that you want to be before you're there, and then you'll be in that abundant flow.
Believe it, then see it.
Yes, exactly.
So then let's dive into number 2, because I think this is a real tough one for people, which is get clear where you're at. And you talk about even writing a ditty and basically exposing the drama that you have around money.
Oh, yeah, the writing the letter to money thing?
Yes.
Okay, that is such a funny, I think it's hilarious because you see what a freak show is going on with you.
No.
So I really recommend, you have to know, if you're wondering why you can't make money, like in your conscious mind, you're like, I love money. Like, be great to have tons of money. I could spend it on all these great things and do all this stuff. But deep down, you have to know what's really going on with you. So I recommend that you write a letter to money. And I'll just give you a quick example of what that could sound like, right? So I love money. I'm so grateful that I have money. I love it when it comes in, but I feel kind of weird talking about it. It makes me feel dirty. And people do such awful things for money that I don't want any part of it. And also, by the way, when I make it, I don't know what the hell to do with it. And it's not really there for me. I don't trust that I can make it, but I love it. And then you see this whole push-pull going on, right? Right? So until you question all the negative beliefs that you've got around it and really unhook from them, you're going to be, what did they say, driving with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. Yeah. Because you want it, but you feel you have all these really negative emotions around it. So until you deal with the negative emotions, you're going to be screwing yourself up a lot.
So you get clear on the emotions. We'll dive into number 3 to get clear there on where you desire to be. I think this is a tough one for people to understand because you're talking about real clarity here, aren't you? I
am talking about real clarity, and I'm also going to say you don't have to know every single solitary thing, because if you wait until you know, I think that our culture puts a lot of pressure on you to know exactly what you're doing and to have this thunderbolt recognition of this is who I'm supposed to be in the world. This is my calling. And I don't know a lot of people. I've certainly had about 25 careers in my life. Mm-hmm. And so the same thing goes with your desires. You pick something that is like the Audi, right? Like the be all end all wasn't me buying this car. And then thanks, have a nice day. I'm done with my life, right? But at the moment that had really great meaning and it was a huge stretch for me and it was really exciting. Mm-hmm. So it's great to have your 5-year, it's great to know what you want as big as you can get there. But if you're not there, don't worry about it. The most important thing is that you have emotion around it because we are creatures that are driven by emotion. So get clear on a desire that has real meaning to you. Because if you're like, yeah, I want to make $1 million this year, that means a whole lot of nothing, right? So get clear on why and what you're going to spend it on and how that's going to make you feel and start sitting in that energetic. Which is why we say, if you want the car, go drive it. If you want the house, put pictures up of it, go look at the house. If you want to give to a certain charity, go visit their organization and get really involved in it. Get emotional. And that will help you infinitely when you hit the challenges along the way, because there will be challenges.
So have you taken this opportunity where, for instance, maybe you didn't have the money at that point or something, and you either went out and went shopping or you went and at least tried things to envision having them in your life?
Absolutely. I mean, I did it with the car, mm-hmm. and trying to think. That was such a memorable one for me. Now actually I'm doing it right now. I want to build a house, and so I'm at every open house. And if I see something I like, I'll buy it. But I'm going for something that's out of my price range again, and then to find it, and then be like, all right, there's my house. This is what it's going to cost. I'm going to rock this year and make the money to get it.
That's a story. You have a beautiful story in the book about a woman, and I don't know if it was a villa in Italy or Nice or somewhere there.
Yeah. So she was a client of mine who, she was a poet, and I think she was teaching writing courses or whatever. Really wasn't making a ton of money, and she went to Italy and she saw this villa for sale and was like, oh my God, this is my house. Like, it just exploded something in her, right? And it was this emotional thing, completely out of her price range. But she had this knowing and this insane desire in her that it was going to be hers. Didn't speak Italian, never owned a house, knew nothing about it. All she knew was she desired it. Mm-hmm. So she decided she was going to buy it. And she told the people who were selling it, don't show it anymore, I'm buying it. And then she's on the way home like, what the hell am I doing? When she gets home, everybody's like, you don't even speak Italian. You don't know nothing about anything. She freaking figured it out. She ended up selling rental time for the house before she owned it in order to buy it. And now I think she's looking at a second property out there now.
Wow.
That here, I can't have it, pipe and smoke it,
So then that brings us right to rule number 4, raise your frequency, because it sounds like she was doing a little of that.
Exactly. So it really is. I mean, and I think that's such a great example of what we're talking about with this energetic thing, right? Mm-hmm. She got into that frequency of it's already mine. I have no freaking idea how I'm going to do it, but I'm doing it. So that's what all of this self-helpery is talking about when they say, and I say, you don't need to know the how, you just need to know the why. Mm-hmm. The how, you don't know the how yet because you're still in this reality, right? All you need to know is that I'm going over there. So you just have to have that emotion, and the how will start to reveal itself as you start taking those leaps of faith. So it's about raising your frequency first, and then you open yourself up to new possibilities. Because what happens when you don't believe? When you don't believe, opportunities are coming at you all the time, but you can't see them because you're so busy like, no, I can't. I don't have the money. So caught in that frequency, right?
Well, but there was a story, India, spiritual gentleman. She's calling him into her life, Krishna. She's calling for Krishna.
Right. And so somebody is meditating in the forest about how they really want to meet Krishna, and meditating. I want to meet Krishna. And, lo and behold, Krishna walks up behind it and taps him on the shoulder. And he's like, not now. I'm meditating because I want to meet Krishna. Right. So it's like, you're so stuck in that space that, all these opportunities like, hey, yo, but you can't see them if you're not at their frequency.
Mm-hmm. So then what does it mean you have your 5th rule of wealth consciousness, stay in shape? What do you mean by that?
I call it going to the spiritual gym. And because we have these stories that we've been living with our whole entire lives up until now, right? Like the thought processes and the can't haves and the small minded, not to say I really don't want to come across as you're all too small minded. You don't know what you're talking about. But if there is an area of your life that you're stuck in, it's probably you've got this broken record going on. You need to go to the spiritual gym about it. So you're already probably going to the to-do list gym and doing everything you know how to do, but go to the spiritual gym. So for me, again, money, I was reading at least one wealth consciousness book, if not two, at all times. I'd wake up in the morning, 10 minutes, 15 minutes at night. I was going to wealth consciousness seminars. I was doing guided meditations. I was working on my frequency, and I was visiting the Audi dealership. You have to take it as seriously as if you really want to get into shape some other way. We act like it's just going to somehow magically happen, but you've got to put the energy in and strengthen that muscle.
I absolutely love it. And going along those lines, then you say, make it urgent and take hell-bent for glory action.
So you're working on the mindset, but then you also need to do things. So, and the hell-bent for glory action part is when you blast out of your present reality and energetic frequency and go to the new one, you will get intuitive hits and new opportunities all the time, right? And almost every single one of them is going to scare the crap out of you because it's something you've never done. It's going to be really risky. You're just like, how the hell am I going to pull this off, right? Like how I just told that woman that I'm buying this villa in Tuscany. I don't even have $1. So, but she said, she took that leap of faith. She said, don't show this to anybody else. I'm buying it. So it's that kind of hell-bent for glory action. It's that, and so what does that do? It gives you the urgency, like, okay, I've taken the action, and now, holy crap, oh my God, I just put the down payment on an Audi. I don't have the income to do this. That's what I'm talking about, is taking the leap of faith and raising that frequency and putting the urgency in.
Fantastic. So let's dive back briefly into something a little bit more foundational, because I think we can still get into a lot of trouble here if we don't get the BS under control.
Yes. So we touched on this lightly earlier.
Yeah. BS
is my term for the big snooze, which is often referred to as ego in other people's stuff, which is great. I like to call it the big snooze. But so the BS are all the thoughts, beliefs, and words that you've been rolling through life with that are not supporting you. All the wants, can't haves, it's not okay, I don't have permission, whatever your broken record is. So basically, the steps are you become aware of what they are, right? Like you really, now that you're at the spiritual gym, you start to listen to what your broken record is. Mine was, I can't afford it. And then once you become aware, it's not a new opportunity for you to feel like I'm such a loser. This is my broken record. That's not where we're going with this. Okay, so you're just like, oh, look at me. Aren't I cute? That's my broken record. Then you start to question it and be like, can I really not afford it? Why can't I afford it? Because I don't make any money. Is it true that I don't make any money? Well, no, I do make money. So if I do make money, is it possible that I could make more money? And then when you just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, you deconstruct it and you bring some air and some light into it. So getting clear on the specifics about your BS is the road. The specifics are the road to freedom at all times anyway. You know, we get into these states of overwhelm where it's like, I can't afford it. And that just becomes the blanket statement.
And so what then emotion you just put behind that statement too.
And so until you get into the specifics of it, you're just going to be trapped beneath that gorilla of that blanket statement and emotion. So pick it apart and let some air and some light and some fun into it and be like, well, I've made money before. Why the hell can't I make it again? Right? So it's about getting clear on what your BS records are, questioning them, and then turning it around and being like, finding some kind of mantra that attaches to an emotion in you. So I can't afford it becomes money is my pal. I make it all the time and more is coming to me. Like, whatever. Yeah, and it has to have emotion. So my mantra might not be the same one for you, but keep saying something that strikes some kind of chord with you.
So then you talk about as people are getting past their big snooze, you says life often turns to beep before it turns to Shinola. In fact, you give an example of a client of yours who went through, oh my God, this person, he was hit by a bus
The water main break broken. It's like the water main in his kitchen exploded. All these horrible things. And then as a cherry on top of the sundae, he got hit by a bus. It was horrible. But he was such a rock star and just breaking out of all of his broken records. So this is how powerful we are. Mm-hmm. We can shift our realities, but there's an internal struggle that's going on. You have been existing in this one reality, in this comfort zone for so long that you're basically sort of killing off your old self and creating a new one, which is also why everybody who loves you is freaking out at the same time, because you're killing the person they know and love, and it makes everybody very uncomfortable. So your BS and your old self is gonna rage, right? It's like, I'm fighting for my life here. So it will you energetically will create banana peels in your path to stop yourself from getting to this new, it's amazing. I see it all the time. But the thing that I love to tell people to remember is, in nature, there is no growth without friction. There never is. Like, think about birth. Talk about, banana peels, pain, blood, gore, whatever, and then birth, miracle, life, new child. And there's certain species of trees that when the seeds drop, they can't be cracked open unless there's a forest fire. And that's how the new growth is generated. So it's the way of nature. It's not, we don't need to make it a giant drama that, oh my God, my client got hit by a bus. He wasn't like, I got hit by a bus, I'm out of it, forget it. He kept going.
And he survived, yes.
So don't make a big drama out of it. Just consider it as a note from the universe, like, I'm on the right path. Stuff's going down, but you don't get there without friction.
How much is meditation a key to trying to bring things under control at that time?
I think medication and meditation.
Meditation as medication. I like it.
I do too. Absolutely, because you're expanding your mindset and you're creating a new one, you could get caught in the squirrel trap of the old, like, oh my God, this isn't working. I'm not meant to do this. It's too hard. I can't. When you meditate, the whole point of meditation is to stop that and to get into a calm zone and to open up your frequency to new ideas and new intuitive hits. And you connect to your higher self in that moment, and also, guys, if you're meditating for 15 minutes and you're in the zone for a collective 20 seconds, that's awesome. Like, everybody who's meditating isn't like having this, floating up off the ground. Like, I certainly don't, but those 20 seconds are profound. So you're good. As long as you do it, that's what I think. But
do the practice.
Yeah. That's why they call it practice.
It's a chapter in your book. So I've got to ask, how do we make our brain our bitch?
Make your brain your bitch by meditating and questioning and not deciding that your current surroundings dictate your reality. They are where you are presently. They are not the reality. You are in control. So not falling prey to your negative thoughts, beliefs, and words. Not deciding that this is the way it is. We have such control. It's so cool. I really feel like I got in on this magic trick where had I not been allowed to become aware of the fact that we really are in control and the power of our thoughts and our words and our beliefs. I mean, it's so much easier. Everybody's like, oh, changing your life is so hard. All you got to do is shift your damn perspective and shut up. Really, it's really not that hard.
Make the choice.
Yeah. So when you stop pretending you're a victim to your thoughts and your surroundings and the way you were raised and your bank account and whatever's going on with you, and decide that you're going to create whatever makes you the most excited and the most alive, that's when you make your brain your bitch instead of the other way around.
Woo! This flows right into the next question, which is something we talked about in the intro, is how we lead with our crotch. And in that section, and we'll get into that in a second, you say there's nothing as powerful as a freight train full of F yeah. And I think you are that freight train.
Thank you.
So what are you talking about on both accounts there?
Okay. So the freight train is the emotion. And, we see it all the time, like emotions, what people do when they're like madly in love with somebody or, and look at all the horrors going on in the world, like fanaticism, that's emotion. That's not logic. So the freight train of well, I guess first on this podcast, it's very difficult for me. But anyway,
go for it, and I can beep. So go for the emotion.
The freight train of emotion is what I'm talking about. Nothing as unstoppable. And I know everybody listening to this has done it at some point in your life, right? Like you bought the house, you've had the baby, you've told somebody I love you, like you've taken that leap and been like, wow. But you're so alive at that moment. And when you're attached to your desires and the bleep, you go for it and you overcome challenges in a way that you've never done it before because the emotion is leading the bus. And just to demystify what this whole leading with your crotch thing is, it's about, I was in a band called Crotch when I was in my 20s, and we had no talent. Well, we did not have talent. I won't say that. We had no expertise. I'd been playing the guitar for like 15 minutes when I hit the stage for the first time. And, but it was so much fun. And we got a record deal. We rocked it. No, we rocked it. And we were just on fire. Like nothing was out of our reach. So we just went for things that we had no right going for. And it was one of the funnest times of my life. And it was great. So I just remember back in those days, it was more about, I had this great mantra that I still use all the time. I just want to see what I can get away with. So it's like, I've been playing the guitar for 15 minutes, but I just want to see if I can go call the A&R guy at Columbia Records and see if he'll listen to my demo. Like,
awesome.
What do I have to lose, right? So that was the spirit. And I think the danger that we get into as adults is we get responsible and it's not practical and I don't want to bother that person. And when you remember that we're on a ball in outer space zooming through a galaxy, this whole experience is so ridiculous. Why the hell not? What do you have to lose? Why get bogged down by this drama? Put the fun back in and just see what you can get away with. Who cares?
Woo!
So that's what leading with your crotch is.
I like it. And you say something that a big mentor of ours, well, he's not big this way, but a great mentor of ours has told us, which is, remember, done is better than perfect. And that sounds like, see what you can get away with.
Yes, absolutely. Well, also, and let's remember, there is no perfect. And so if you're waiting for that, good luck. Like, have fun waking up at 98, realizing you didn't do anything with your life, really. And just once you start doing, because if the mind is such a beautiful thing, and it also can hold us back so much. So when we try to put all the pieces in place before we take a step, it's really a very thinly veiled procrastination tool. It's not necessarily doing your best. I'm not saying you shouldn't be prepared and you shouldn't make things look awesome and go out with your best foot forward, but we can pretend that that's what we're doing because we're scared to get started.
How do we get past the fear? You said fear is for suckers.
Fear is for suckers in that if it's kind of like your brain is your bitch. If you let fear rule your life, you're becoming a victim to it, where again, friction leads to growth. So fear is just one of the frictions. And the other thing is, fear is such a buddy, because if you're not scared, like let's take the Audi example again. Like I was terrified to buy that car, but I was equally as excited. Thrilling and terrifying are the opposite sides of the same coin.
Sounds like dating.
It is like dating. And if you're not scared, you're kind of doing something wrong because you're still in your comfort zone. So if it's not a little bit scary, it's kind of ho-hum and you're not taking, so that's how you know you're on the right path. If you're scared, you're like, it's terrifying, but I'm so excited, right? Buying that house in Italy, terrified. But she did it. So it's actually a very good thing, because fear signals like it triggers something in you that you're getting outside of your comfort zone. And also the other thing that is so important to remember is fear exists in the future. When you're scared of something, you are deciding that something that hasn't happened yet is going to happen. So how many times have you thought in hindsight, like, I was so scared to do that and it was actually kind of easy? So many times, right? So let's get into reality about fear, what's really going on. And the other thing I want to say about fear is it's not going away. So it's not about waiting until you're not scared anymore to go do something, right? It's kind of like the done is better than perfect, and, leap before the net appears. So don't wait until you're not scared. Your fear is always going to be there. It's just a matter of whether you're going to give it who's going to be whose bitch, right? So Hi, Fear. Nice to see you. I'm going to let myself freak out a little bit, and now I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyway.
I'm going to put you in the back seat here of my new Audi.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. There's so many directions we can go with this. So everybody, you need to get You Are a Badass, because I can just keep going with question after question. There's so much fun stuff in here. This is one of my all-time favorite self-help books because it is fun and it's practical, and you don't go all what's the term, roses and puppies, or puppies and roses. You take people through the mire, but then you bring them out the other side. So before we wrap things up, are there some last words of wisdom that you would like to give people?
This is your one and only spin on this earth as the you that is you. And for the benefit of not only everybody in the world being able to partake of your awesomeness, have fun with your life. I mean, you have a choice here, and you are not stuck where you are right now. If you feel stuck, you have power, you have resources. Just go for it, because it really is such an extraordinary gift, this very short life of ours. And it's so much fun when you get into the groove. And also, it's not hard. Okay, we've really been raised to think that it's so hard. Hard is wallowing in mediocrity and feeling like you've got this thing that's trying to burst out of you. That's hard, is living that life and squashing that down. Mm-hmm. Fun is letting it out of the cage and seeing what you can get away with. So,
woohoo! Yeah, we won't dive into it here, but you give an example. What's the difference between a 50,000, the chiropractor making 50,000, 500,000, and some odd thousand? It's almost no difference at all, but one's letting them out of the cage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a frequency. So it's like the T-shirt. What are you going to charge for it? You know, and it's just wherever you're at and where you decide you want to be. So, and I want to say one other thing about wealth consciousness. Okay.
Yes.
The thing that really helped me with it, because I had such a big story around it's greedy and I can't charge that amount and I'm a gross person for it. So first of all, understand, once you start making money, you can do what you want with it. So you actually have so much more power to make the changes in the world that are truly important to you. So you really can't help that much. You can still help, but you can't do as much if you're in a state of struggle. You know what it's like. I know when I was really scrappy, I was constantly obsessed with money because I didn't have it. So I was spending all this time on saving money and right? When if I had the money, I could just be spending it and helping the world in the way that I want to help it. So remember that. And the frequency thing around money, when you shrink down, when say somebody wants to work with you if you're a coach, and you decide that you're going to lower your prices so that you can work with them and not charge them a lot of money, it's basically saying to them, I know you can't afford me and I know you never could. So I'm going to shrink down to your little small reality that you're in now of stuck in fear, and we're going to work down there together. As opposed to, this is what I charge. I'm in abundance with money. I have wealth consciousness. I want to lift you up here because I know you can make it up here, right? So it's kind of like the Honda and the Audi. The Audi was like, come on up, Jen, let's rock this, right? And it allowed me to step up. So when you do that with your frequency, not everybody has to work with you. You're not putting a gun to their head saying, you have to pay me this. But it's a different frequency that you're inviting them to participate in. And then they're in the abundant flow. You're in a more abundant flow. And you're able to create more change from a place of abundance and a place of lack.
This also sounds like surrounding yourself with the people that you want to be. Because that's helping bring your frequency up rather than surrounding yourself with where you were, which is going to bring about more of where you were.
Exactly. And, birds of a feather, and, everybody that you're sitting around with is talking about how bad the economy is and how it's too risky and and that will knock you down so fast. So I always recommend, and it's not that you can't still love the people who you've grown up with, and your family members are usually the biggest ones that you got to deal with. It's not about not loving them, but it's about not sharing your dreams with them, because if they can't support you, they just don't need to know. So it's not that. You go out and you find new people. And I can't tell you, and with me, I didn't know anybody who was as hardcore as I was at the time. And so I had to pay for them. That's why I hired coaches. That's why I got into coaching programs. I was like, I don't know anybody like this, but I know how important it is to surround myself with this. And the other thing it does is it kicks your, if you, not only does it show you what's available to you by hanging out with people who are where you want to be, but it kicks your ass. You're like, okay, I don't want to like go hang out with this person and tell them that I'm still, working at this crappy job. I want to show that I can do it too. So
peer pressure.
Healthy competition.
I like it. So a last question that I have for all of our guests, which is what brings you the greatest happiness, or what I call the woohoo factor?
So many things. That's like picking your favorite band. I love travel. I love traveling and especially travel that makes me feel like I've gone through the looking glass. So when I go to a place where I'm just like, it's so foreign and so trippy and otherworldly. That's why I love Southeast Utah. I go backpacking there all the time. It literally is like taking a walk on the moon. And I just got back from Iceland, and there was this one place.
That's one of our dream places, Iceland.
Go there because people are finding out about it, and I don't know. It's amazing. But there was one place that we went that had, I won't get into the description, but I had never seen anything like it in my life. So it took me literally 5 seconds of looking at it to even register what I had seen.
Okay, I've got to ask, what did you see?
Okay. So basically, Iceland is a gigantic active volcano. Hello, how crazy is that? And it's a giant, so it's lava everywhere. So the beaches are black lava. So it was a black beach. But it was there was a black beach next to a glacial lagoon, and all of these bright blue chunks of glacial ice had cracked off and were floating in this glacial lagoon. And there was just something about seeing the black ground with the water and the blue ice. Like I had never seen anything like it. And I realized that I'd been standing there looking at it, and I was like, oh my God, that was so cool. For 5 seconds, I was in a completely different universe. It was really fun.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being on the show. Oh, before we wrap things up, where do we send people to find out more?
My website, which is jensincero.com. So it's Jen, Jen, and then Sincero is like the word sincere with an O on the end. So jensincero.com. Or you can go to youareabadass.com. They both lead to the same place.
Awesome. And we'll have the links on our site. We'll have links to everything we talked about here as well. So if you go to inspirenationshow.com, we can get you right on over to you as well.
Awesome. Thanks. This was so much fun.
Thank you. This was truly a joy. And wow, we may have to have you back on sometime. This was a lot of fun.
I agree.
So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well. Have fun. Remember, you are a badass. And shine bright. Woohoo!
See you later.
Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!